Thanks, Richard, and hi, everybody. So the API is the Association of Play Industry. So we are the membership body representing playground manufacturers. And we are absolutely passionate about the free to access, inclusive, well-designed, safe spaces. And it isn't just about kids' play. It's so much more important than that. And in the 20 plus years I've been researching child development and play, every time I do another piece of research, I realise something new about the power of play. And it is not overstating it to say that it is essential. And we are, at the API, we are massive supporters of Play England and their play sufficiency manifesto and campaign. And we are just one part of a wider play landscape. Again, with Ingrid's work in the Play Streets, we would love to see kids playing in the streets, playing in the woods, playing outside, anywhere. But the reality is that not everybody can access that for one reason or the other, whether it's traffic, whether it's where they live in the middle of an inner city and they can't get to the woods or the fields. And so playgrounds have a really important part to play in giving children the opportunities for all those really cool skills. And I'm going to just go through some of those skills now, because playgrounds really are good for kids, but they are good for the whole community. So lots of different ways of developing a play space. And you've got if you think about a playground, you often think of sort of the wet paw and a big sort of climbing frame and maybe some swings. But actually, there's a lot more to it. And sand pits with loose parts play and well-designed structures can help develop that imagination and creativity. And that's so important for children's mental health and their relationships as well, because that's where they play with people that they might not otherwise. They learn to deal with different people. They learn things like compromise and empathy and negotiation and all those really important skills that they only really get through play. Good playgrounds really do promote health and well-being. Activity, as we've heard, is a habit. We need to get children in the habit of playing outside, just like, and I'm similar generation, the sort of 70s, 80s kids who are outside in the street after school, playing with your mates, with that freedom. And it is a habit. And the more we do it, the safer it becomes. And it's a real virtuous circle. So being able to give children the freedom to move freely around their communities and have some spaces that they can feel that are theirs. I think the Play Streets is fabulous, and I think designing traffic-free spaces within communities absolutely where we want to be, but that's going to take some time. Playgrounds are, by and large, are there already. They just need some love, because actually giving children a space that is identified as theirs, that they maybe have some ownership of, that they feel engaged with, it also stops them being antisocial around the rest of the community. So it's really important to give children that opportunity to have that active play and exercise in a safe, well-designed, accessible space. It's not just physical health, it's mental health as well. The physical and social skills, being active is good for children. We've got an obesity epidemic. We've got children who are more sedentary than they've ever been. So getting them outside, moving, and certainly for young children, it's an absolute blessing for parents, because if you've got rid of your kids' energy during the day, they eat better, they sleep better, and then they start the next day ready to do it all again. Whereas if they're sedentary and they're kept indoors and they hadn't had an opportunity to get rid of the adrenaline, the testosterone, the cortisol, all of those stuff that's coursing around their bodies that gets moderated when they're active, then they're likely to be picky eaters, they're likely to not sleep well, they're likely to be more fractious, and it just creates a stressful environment that I think is absolutely contributing to some of the mental health issues that we're observing. So there's lots of different physical and social skills that the community playgrounds represent, but it's also about the community cohesion. And parental isolation is a massive issue in today's society, because a lot of people have moved away from where they grew up for work or marriage, relationships, whatever, and they don't have that natural support network that they grew up with. And playgrounds, being in a playground with your child, grandchild, foster child, niece, nephew, whoever it is a way of communities just coming together and providing that support for parents, so that nobody feels like they're doing this all on their own. And I think the more communities can play together, the more we will foster that tolerance, respect, acceptance of people of all different backgrounds, shapes, sizes, income levels, whatever. I think it's such an open space. It's such a safe space for people to develop those skills. And again, the more people that use it, the safer it becomes. And so some of the issues around some of the barriers to playground use, things like being inhabited by people taking drugs, or dog mess being around, all that sort of stuff. The more they get used, the less of those issues they come, because it becomes safer for everybody and more enjoyable for everybody, and it gets self-policed as well. So it's about getting to that tipping point where parents are able to feel that it's okay to go down the park, and it's okay to let your older kids go down the park unsupervised, because you know that there will be other kids there and other families there, and it's generally a safe space. So we need to get back to that kind of critical mass of usage of these spaces in order to maximize the benefits. The big thing for me with the built playgrounds is the inclusion and equality, and playing out in the woods and building dens in the with the trees, all very sort of Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh. All is very idyllic, but the reality is you've got a lot of children who that is simply not an option for, and we need to give those children opportunities to play and be, again, just with other people, so that they can develop all the really important social and emotional skills that they need. And so well-designed, inclusive play spaces is one of the things that I think I'm most proud of our members for, is that the investment that they're putting in creating really innovative, truly inclusive play. So it's not about just sticking a ramp on something and saying, oh, well, that's fine, it's accessible for a wheelchair. It's about taking that salad approach rather than a soup and everything being homogenized, that salad approach. So you've got lots of different types of equipment, so that children with sensory processing disorders can be accommodated over here, and children who've got ADHD and need the adrenaline rush can be accommodated over here, and children who want to play on their own can go over here. And there is something for everybody within a play space that encourages that social cohesion and that interaction. So it's really good to see the innovation that's happening in the play industry in this space. And I think especially within inner cities where you haven't got the space, being able to be really considered about what play equipment is being made available is crucial. And what we as an industry are trying to do is work within the landscapes. And I think sort of 20, 30 years ago, it was very much a chuck a load of wet pour down, put a load of fences up and slap a few, plastic and metal structures in the middle of it. And that's a playground. I think those days have gone. And I think what we're encouraging is that sustainable approach. There's a lot of innovation in sustainability within the play industry, but also working in a complementary way to nature and natural play, and making it just more accessible, enriching it, making it more durable, and being able to give children that opportunities to connect with nature, because getting kids outside in their environment with that green space is one of the best gifts we can give our kids. And one of the other things I think is really important, and I think the pendulum swung too far in one direction after Esther Rantzen and all the kind of the uproar in the 70s and 80s, I think it was, where we got rid of the concrete flooring and we put wet pour and safety surfaces down. That was all good. Then it got too safe and everything got sort of less fun, and the pendulum now has swung back with the latest set of guidelines around risk versus reward versus safety. And I think it's important to make sure that play spaces are safe, because that's how you get parents feeling confident in letting their kids use it. But we need children to develop those risk assessment skills. So there needs to be a challenge and an element of risky play so that they can learn. Because if they learn when the consequences are minor, they won't take the big risks that we're seeing sort of young adults take, because they've never had to face up to their own consequences because they've been wrapped in cotton wool. So managed risk in play is really important. But all of the API members are very, very aware of all the safety legislation and commit to being completely compliant with it all. So again, really important to make sure that when we are letting children play, we understand the risks and we're there to manage them. Like I said, accessibility for all is really important. And when we're developing play spaces in communities, it's not just about the ramp, it's about how you access it. So, having streets that have got cycle lanes or wide paths so that kids can get to and from different play spaces, or their home or their school and the park and the playgrounds, moving around their communities. That's accessibility, as is being able to use a toilet, being able to have a bench for somebody, an elderly carer to sit and rest when the kids are playing. All of those things go into that true accessibility and inclusion. And it's also about making it wider age range, because I think a lot of the toddler parks are relatively well used, but actually the teenagers, and especially teenage girls, if you haven't seen it, look at that Make Space for Girls report. Eugene, I think you've probably got a link to that if you can pop it in the chat for me. But teenage girls are being very underserved in the kind of community play space, and it's really important that we really do look at accessibility for everybody and play for everybody, and even the adults. I don't think you're ever too old to play, and giving adult exercise stations or stuff that adults can join in with just makes everybody more fun. It's all good as far as I'm concerned. So just a bit of background on the role of us, the API. We have a rigorous set of criteria that are met by all members. So the API members are signing up to financial and safety compliance standards, and we offer a free mediation in the event of a dispute. So it's about giving councils and the communities, schools and whoever, peace of mind to be able to invest in. We know it's a big investment, but in terms when it's done well and used properly, it's such a positive step, and the return on investment is massive in terms of community health. And we have also got a campaign on the go at the minute. Our Pathway to Play launched yesterday. I'm going to put something in I'm going to put the link to the actual campaign in the chat just there. And really, we've got a manifesto. We are prioritising play, but it's summed up really in 3 asks. So we want the government, whoever it is after the next election, but I mean, if they wanted to do this sooner, that would be great too, to conduct a national audit of public playgrounds, not just how many, but actually where they are and how well used they are. Ensure the long-term sustainability of public playgrounds by allocating dedicated funding for free-to-use community spaces. So we don't want to see a load of playgrounds being put behind, in private places where kids have to play to access. We want it in the community, ideally within 5 minutes of their home, so that every child has the access to safe and high-quality outdoor play. And we want to help. And just as Ingrid and Eugene have said, increase children's physical activity levels through outdoor play at school as well as outdoors, out of school, but by integrating outdoor learning into the national curriculum and providing funding specifically for school outdoor play spaces. We've seen a lot of playgrounds and playing fields being sold off by schools, and we think we think it's a mistake. So we want to make sure that schools are prioritising play and learning through play as well. So we would love everybody on this webinar to get involved. Do check that link out and let's work together. Like Eugene and Ingrid said, it's about making this a collaborative effect and making sure that kids have that right to play. I tried to whiz through that because I wanted to make sure that Michael had enough time. But just to sum up, we believe that quality playgrounds, local quality playgrounds, are a critical community infrastructure. We know the benefits that they provide, and we need to make sure that they are thoughtfully designed, well maintained, and properly funded.